Ja, hallo und herzlich willkommen, sehr verehrte Damen und Herren, hier zum letzten Panel für heute in diesem Raum 14a. Und es ist ein spannendes Thema, denn Serientrends in Europa, Serien, Sie wissen es selbst, können süchtig machen und Serien liegen weiter im Trend. Die goldene Zeit der Serien, das goldene Zeitalter ist noch lange nicht zu Ende, auch wenn sich das ein bisschen verändert einfach. Das heißt, die besten Serien kommen nicht mehr nur aus den USA, sondern auch aus Europa, das heißt Großbritannien, Skandinavien, da tut sich ganz viel und Frankreich. Da gibt es ganz, ganz spannende Sachen, vor allem auch, weil dort andere Regeln gelten als in den USA. Ja, Serientrends in Europa, das ist jetzt unser Thema und einführen wird sie Gerhard Meyer, Programmdirektor von Seriencamp. Ich wünsche Ihnen gute Unterhaltung. Bitte schön, Herr Meyer.
Hello. I'm very glad that this worked, even though we had some slight technical hiccups.
Eine Sache, wenn wir haben auch Übersetzer, Sie können sich gerne da hinten ein Gerät holen und dann wird für Sie übersetzt. Das wollte ich noch gerne sagen. Ich wusste nicht, ob auf Englisch oder Deutsch. Kann auch sein, dass es zwischendrin mal wechselt. Also, falls Sie eine Übersetzung brauchen, da hinten holen Sie sich ein Gerät. Sorry for that.
No problem. We stay in English just for information for all of you guys. I'm very happy to be invited here today to the Medientage with this panel that's matter of heart for us, mostly because we're here in Munich for Seriencamp. That's a conference that starts tomorrow at the HFF and has around 250 people from the serial storytelling industry. I think that's the best way to put it, from all over Europe. I think the furthest delegate is coming from Australia tomorrow. And after that, we have 2.5 days, starting from Friday, the Seriencamp Festival, where we show 50 series from Europe, the US, and the rest of the world that we found this year, found interesting, and want to show a wider audience. All of those screenings are free of charge, so if any of you have something they want to watch on starting Friday evening, you're invited. If you want to come to the conference itself, we still have tickets available, a few. So this starts tomorrow at 9 at the HFF. The reason why we brought all those people together here is a very special one, that the year over we traveled to several festivals, conferences in Europe and the US to check out what is happening in regard to serial storytelling. It's something that's changing quite rapidly. The market gets more international, the market gets more competitive. Suddenly, players that haven't been part of the media landscape in the last few decades rush onto the stage with pockets full of money to produce new stuff. At the same time, we have, here in Germany, it's not hitting that hard yet, but we have a very rapid change of media consumption, how people watch the stuff they want to watch, where they watch it, and especially when they watch it. While this change is interesting for us to put a spotlight on in Seriencamp conference, we always have the interesting perspectives that we find during the year that we put together, especially here for that panel. The panel here is on trends in Europe, on serial storytelling trends in Europe, from 3 very unique perspectives. For one, we have here Hyppe Salmi from Yle, who's producing for the Finnish public broadcasters 3 shows that for us are very far ahead of what's happening in other places of Europe. The integration of new modes of distribution, namely the web, Facebook, social media, integrated with social media presence that's with a strategy that's also a little bit ahead of what other countries do. And that again combined with a very strong sense of what the public is interested in and what should be part of the public discourse. We're very happy that she'll be here, and also tomorrow we have a presentation at Serienkamp Conference on the show Mental, pitch black dramedy, I would say, at least in my opinion, about young people in a mental health institution that influenced public discourse in Finland quite significantly. For the second guest is Oliver Vogel, the Chief Creative Officer from the freshly renamed Bavaria Fiction. For us, a very interesting perspective, as Bavaria is, as a tradition-rich media company, at least in what we think, changing how they want to be perceived and how they work on serial storytelling. Mr. Vogel has worked on successful series such as In aller Freundschaft, Tierärztin Dr. Mertens, Soko Stuttgart, Rentnerkorps in Dengler, and right now with Das Boot, which is produced for Sky Germany and Sona Entertainment. It shows that the new focus on brands that work internationally and on new modes of cooperation on national and international stage. The third guest is Mr. Harold Valentin. He's a producer for Mother Productions. For us, very interesting because his series 10%, or Call My Agent, was the winner of last year's Serienkamp Jury Award, with a large gap to the next follow-up, to the runner-up. It's a workplace dramedy that was a hit series in France that ran on a station that normally had completely different content, and it's a series that now got sold to Netflix and is broadcast via Netflix in a lot of countries. Unfortunately, not Germany, but in Germany there are other broadcasters currently talking about it. Sorry? Okay. That threw me a little bit. The panel is presented by Mr. Ben Harris, the head of program from Serial Eyes. Serial Eyes, for those who don't know it, is a training program for the next generation of writer-producers for Europe. It's a training program that's very internationally minded. For one, in the approach it takes on for writers to understand the topic of the series they're writing, to understand the industry, and the alumni of Serial Eyes are very highly sought after in Europe right now. So very glad that he can host this panel. But first we kick off with a presentation by Dr. Kerkau. He is a chief researcher from and CEO from Gold Media, and he's going to shed some light on what is happening right now in the media landscape, especially with a focus on the state of streaming and on the different topics and series that are big in streaming and what makes great streaming. And that leads directly to the panel discussion we have next. Thank you very much for that, and informative panel and keynote for you. Thank you.
Want some money? Okay, I leave it here. So, is it possible to get the presentation here to the laptop? No? Oh, unfortunately. So, okay. So then I have to take a look here. Okay. Thank you very much for the kind words of introduction. And as Mr. Meyer said, I'm a researcher, and I was asked to talk about here's it. Okay, to talk about serious success and how viewers can be connected every day by serial content. And since I am a researcher, I have to talk about numbers. So sorry, maybe it's hope it's not that boring, but I will show you some numbers. And let's start with a question: if people want to watch series content, which sources are available? And it's you know this, I guess. But as John Silver and stated once, in the digital industry, if content is king, then distribution would be King Kong. And that's enough for me to take a deeper look on the distribution side. And you have always remaining on a very high level the linear TV, where you can watch series. And some newest recent studies claim maybe that there is a bit of decreasing levels in usage. Some are not. So, but anyway, it stays on a high level. And then we have video streaming of the TV stations, the catch-up streaming. According to the most recent study of our public broadcasters, ARD, ZDF, it's a bit slightly declining from 15 to 13%, so this was a bit astonishing to me. Then in Germany, it's very popular also the DVD or Blu-ray discs, but the levels are decreasing on a strong level, also in Germany now. And another very astonishing result from the ARD ZDF study was, for me, that also the video usage on Facebook as well as on YouTube is a bit stable. It's no growth, maybe a bit declining from 23 to 22%, or the Facebook for 15 to 14. So the next source is the PayWatt market, the PayWatt area. And as this study claims, the PayWatt market is a market with the biggest growth in the moment. So we have about 10% growth in the last 12 months. And apparently this is where the music plays. So it's for us as researcher, this is a good place to make some research, and also you have no data in this area, so the players don't give any data away, and for us it's a good opportunity to make some research on that. So we started a project in January this year. We call it the VOD ratings, and it's we try to figure out how the usage is on the platforms, and how many people watch videos, which titles are watched, and how many subscribers and users are on the platforms, and things like that. And we do it with a methodology of a mix up from technical measurement as well as interviews, and we use a high number of interviews. We are now, since January, we completed over 45,000 interviews on it's like next day recall method. So we ask people, okay, have you yesterday used a video platform? Okay, which was it, and which title you watched? And so we have a good insight in what's going on these platforms. Then we have a kind of online tool where we give all the data to our customers, and you have some sections like how the platforms are performed against each other, like this is the example, which title was viewed on maybe Amazon or Netflix or on any platform. Then we have some information about the production companies, which production company reaches how many viewers, some socio-demographics, and also a huge catalog analytics section where we have over 1 million titles in our database, a bit like EMDB database, where we can analyze a lot of information about the specific titles. So, if we take a closer look to the new gatekeepers of content. We have kind of a question how many people are watching content on the platform, and we call it access. Access is not subscription, so it's because of password sharing. For Netflix, you have 2.5 person per account, so we count this as access to a platform, so you are able to get to the content, to stream content, and watch the titles. So for Amazon in Germany, we know that's over 11 million people who have access to the platform, and for Netflix it's about 8 million, Sky Go about 5 million, and Maxdome it's about 2 million. And the green level indicates how active the users are. So on a daily user basis, more than the half of the users, in the case of Amazon, are watching on a daily basis content from the platform. It's 60% for Netflix. It's the most active users at Netflix, 46% at Sky Go, and 31% at Maxdome. So what makes a platform successful? That's a big question. So we took a deeper look to the catalog for the top 100 title we analyzed, and you see there's a big difference in the catalog for the 100 top titles. It is like at Netflix, the top 3 titles together are 15% of views, and for Amazon it's 25% on the top 3 titles. And this is because Netflix is, due to its personalization, it is more likely to come to a certain title which is not which is individual for you. And in the case of Amazon, it's like a shelf, and all the expensive stuff is on a top level, and you are forced to see all the expensive stuff, and that's why you have really hits. This for 30 days here, we have really hits on Amazon. And the long tail, it's for Amazon, long tail starts maybe at position, don't know, it's maybe 40, 50, and Netflix, it's behind 80. Maybe it's a factor for success, how big is the size of the catalog, and here it's the deduplicated, only the titles of the catalogs, and you see that this can't be really a factor because Netflix is very successful in Germany, but the catalog is very small. It's less than 3,000 titles on the German catalog. And for example, Maxdome deduplicated, it's about 13,000 titles on the catalog, and in the case of Amazon, it's about 30,000 titles, so a really huge catalog. But it's also the Amazon Video Direct, where producers can put their content to the platform by themselves. Maybe it's not the number of titles, maybe it's the character of the catalog, and then I draw this picture of the character of catalogs split by genre, and I was very impressed by this because if you see the colors which indicate how many titles or what is the percentage title per genre, you see that all the platforms are very, very similar. The last column, it's average overall, and this is quite, I don't know, it's the recipe for everyone, I don't know. So the question is, okay, the catalogs are very similar, what's with the viewer? Do the viewers even demand this kind of content or not? So I add another column, these are the viewers and the percentage of viewing by genre. And there you see, okay, drama is the most important genre, that's correct, but the viewers are watch content, drama content, by nearly 30%, and it's the number of titles in the percentage of titles in the catalog is about 20%. The very good fit is for comedy, action, kind of good fit, but very interesting is the case of documentary. Documentary, it's about 5% in the catalog, and it's watched nearly 10 times less. It's 0.5% watch content for documentary. So all in one picture, it's look like that. You see here drama. There's a higher demand for drama than we have titles in the catalog, as well as for crime, romance, mystery, fantasy, and we have more titles than viewers for action, for adventure, and especially for documentary. Next question is, what is the country of origin? Where does a producer come from? And it's obvious that it's the most titles come from the US. About 50% of the watched title across all platforms is US content. But followed by nearly 20% by German local content. So local content is very important for every VOD platform, followed by UK, Canada, Japan, and so on. And what's the most important or most successful series in Germany across all platforms? This is The Big Bang Theory, which is quite interesting because it's also very successful on linear TV, followed by Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, Orange is the New Black, House of Cards, Baking Bread, Prison Break, Pretty Little Liars, Supernatural, and so on. 30 Reasons Why, it's Tote Mädchen lügen nicht in Germany, so the rest is the same. And okay, overall we have a ranking of the most successful shows, and then I marked all the originals. And here you can see that originals are also quite important. And Orange is the New Black, House of Cards, it's originals from Netflix. Certain Reasons Why, also Better Call Saul, and Narcos, very successful series, and Lucifer for Amazon, and The Man in the High Castle, also very successful. And if we divide this by the video platform, you can see that 3 out of 10 successful series are originals for Amazon and Netflix. It's Lucifer, Man in the High Castle, and the German You Are Wanted, Matthias Schweighöfer production. And in the case of Netflix, it's Orange is the New Black. It's the most important show since January, followed by House of Cards and 13 Reasons Why. Maxdome has only one original with this, and it didn't make it to the top 10. It's on position, I guess, 20 or something like that. But there's another interesting story in this diagrams. It's the story of Big Bang Theory as well as Game of Thrones. Big Bang Theory, it's the most successful series in Germany, and it's procedural, so it's working very well on TV, and the saying was that procedurals are not that good for VOD platforms, but we prove it wrong, or they prove it wrong. It's very easy to access, very easy to zap in. You don't lose anything if you watch different seasons or something like this. So it's easy to watch, and it's also a story of distribution. I hope it's not too small, the numbers. We have here the legal situation, the rights situation of the Big Bang Theory, and the Big Bang Theory, it's almost everywhere, on every platform. So you have season 9 on SVOD, at Amazon, Maxdome, at Netflix, at Sky, and a lot of TVOD episodes and seasons, so that you are able to watch it wherever you have access to. And so this is a story of distribution, or one story of distribution. And then, quite other story is Game of Thrones, which has a different strategy to distribute their content, and we have only one company in Germany which have the rights for the SVOD. It's Sky with Sky Go and Sky Ticket, and no one else can stream Game of Thrones with the SVOD service, but on the TVOD or EST, which is here the same, you have every single episode, you can buy every single episode for like pay-per-view. So the market is very even on the green column. You have every season, every episode you can access by every platform. Mostly you have to pay for it. In the case of Sky, you have a SVOD subscription. It's important because it's a horizontal told story, and there it's important to have all no spoilers, and you have access to all the seasons and the episodes. Last but not least, we have here a picture which I call the planetary system of VOD content. It's kind of mapping between the younger and the older viewers, as well as female on the top and on the bottom the male viewers. And there are some certain shows which attract more younger girls or women, like Grey's Anatomy and the Vampire Diaries, for example. And then we have a lot of content for more the older men, like Bosch or The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones. And we don't have that many titles for younger men. Maybe they are more attracted by Twitch TV or don't know, esports or something like this, as well as for the older women. There's only Downton Abbey, and here's a bit of a blind spot, so it's maybe good advice for providers to bring more content for these target groups. So this was a short presentation about our research of pay VOD platforms. Thank you very much. If you're interested in the numbers, you can give me your card or write an email, and my office will take care of this. And now I wish you a good discussion with the colleagues, and thank you very much for listening.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for staying till the bitter end. Thank you for this great discussion just now. It brings up a lot of questions for us and for our panel of producers. Well, let me jump right into the main question that I felt was brought up by this discussion just now, and which is, are we heading into a bifurcated world in which we have old audiences who watch traditional broadcasters and younger audiences that watch online media? Is this the world we're going to be living in soon? And if so, or are there ways out of it? Maybe, Hippe, I'll start with you, because you are dealing with youth audiences. You just produced a show specifically for a teen audience.
Yes, I think we are already living in that world. It has happened. I have been working with the teens and young adults for last 6 or 7 years, and the change has been very fast. When we started, there was still a chance to get them to watch TV, and now there is not.
So what are the strategies that you employ to reach audiences? You just produced a web series, Mental, that did a very specific message and also had a very specific mandate, I take it.
Yes, actually, Mental was the second of our successful web series. We started with hashtag #LoveMilla maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and had 3 seasons. And in #LoveMilla, we also used our own VOD service. We have our own VOD in Wiley. It's called
Wiley.
Arena, yes.
What was it about?
Pardon?
The first show, what was it about?
Do you mean what the #LoveMilla was about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a story about a girl, 16-year-old girl. In a way, it was something like Scum in a funny way. there were some similarities, like an ordinary girl living in her life, and all the stuff she is facing. And
and you had an interesting distribution platform. You had 8-minute episodes, 5 or even shorter episodes, right? Shareable
in
content.
Love Milla, some of the episodes were like 1.5 minutes, up to 10 minutes. But now this Mental, which we just had last year, it was a story about four young people in mental rehab. Actually, they were in the mental institution. And the reason why we made it was that we have a very big problem in Finland with the mental health of the young people. So the drama, the web series, was part of our campaign. We also had a very large social media campaign. And we managed to have a helpline for the teens to get actual help for 1 week. So I think that the way you can reach the teens is that you have some meaningful content. It's not enough anymore just to have fun or just to have any content. The quality is the main thing, I think.
And I think what's interesting in your case is because you work for a public broadcaster, you kind of counteract the general impression we get that public broadcasters are now for the older audiences. You are reaching out specifically for teen audiences. Do you have a specific mandate at Wiley that you're pursuing in this respect?
I think that's the only way you can reach the teens. And in Wiley, we have this opportunity by our own VOD service, and also we have a chance to use quite a lot social media platforms. So in Mental, we published all the episodes in YouTube. So it was sort of YouTube first. I don't know if any other public broadcaster have ever done such a decision. So in a way, the target, our mission was so strong. We wanted to reach the teens so much that we were ready to go to the other platforms and not trying to get them to then come to us.
Harold, let me ask you. You recently produced 10%, Call My Agent, which ran very successfully on French public broadcaster France 2, up to a 20% share, if I'm correct, for most of the episodes for the first 2 seasons. You sold to Netflix for English-speaking territories, yet it is a show about a talent agency, a very specific, almost niche kind of workplace drama, one could say. How did you manage to make this a mainstream success?
Well, first, I agree with you. We are in this world that the audience is quite divided, but primetime TV remains very strong, and you can really create an event that assembles a lot of people together, including the youngers. And it doesn't happen a lot. That's not what mainstream broadcasters do now, because they are afraid of what they're losing, and they have difficulties taking risks to do something else. And when you take risks, you can really crash. So they prefer not to take too many risks, but they have to. And we had a very even audience between teenagers, young, older. We didn't have over 70 because it was a very quick language show about this workplace. But we were number 1 or 2 on Twitter every night. We broadcasted. And maybe because we had a character who is 35, but she's a lesbian, she's very transgressive, she acts like a teenager. Maybe that's why we attracted the teenagers, I don't know. And because we were making fun of big stars in France. This show reached something that France 2 hadn't reached since they launched another show called Fais pas ci, fais pas ça, Desperate Parents. And so I think it's not doomed to be that. Like This Is Us on NBC was the surprise of last year. And these broadcasters can't just rely on the old people, because either they pay taxes to finance public TV, or they want commercials for youngers, so they have to reinvent themselves. The thing is that the platform now are targeting younger audience, and they really grab them. Netflix was producing 4 shows in 2009, and now they produced 93 shows last year, you know, and they're really targeting 18 to 35. So how do you react to that? I think you have to be very imaginative, and I think it's possible to have 1 or 2 shows per year that really create an event on these broadcasters and attract other people. Like there was in Spain a show called The Red Bracelet, but young
Red
people,
Society.
yeah, young people in the hospital. It's a very moving show. It's like This Is Us, and they attracted a lot of audience, youngers, olders. Everyone was attracted to it, so they succeeded in it. So I think the world is going to still change, but in this world of where the number of shows increasing so much that we don't talk to each other any longer about the same shows. It's very hard to have seen the same shows. I'm sure we will have time to discuss that. So it's very hard to create so that the people will feel they want. So editorialization of the broadcasters, of the platforms, becomes key, and people don't want to look again and again at all the video library of the platforms all the time, because there is a bit too much coming up now. It's still going to grow because Apple is coming, Hulu is growing. They made the show we talked the most of last year, Handmaid's Tale. And so it's a very living world, and who's going to win in the end, I don't know, but I don't think mainstream broadcasters are dead for now in terms of I'm not saying teenagers, but younger audience. They just have to react and not to be frozen by fear, because otherwise they will be dead.
Oliver, you are Chief Creative Officer at Bavaria Fiction. Bavaria is one of the biggest production companies in Germany. You have a vast slate of very successful shows for mainstream broadcasting. Recently, you expanded or you restructured your international series department. So now you're looking at national as well as international series. Do you see a difference between the dramatic exigencies, the dramaturgy for each one, or are they the same in your experience? Do you look at international series differently than you look at national series for the German market?
No, I don't. I think it's nearly the same. You need a good story, conflicts, good characters, interesting characters. And the difference is not that storytelling for international market is completely different than for the national market. It's more than the audience. The older ones, they prefer procedurals, and the younger one, they prefer horizontal or serialized stories, because they use their iPad and they used to look 4 or 5 or 6 episodes in one evening in a row, and I think that's the difference between pay TV or public broadcasters. It's more than the difference between national or international.
So do you think it's possible for the public broadcaster to produce content for mobile, for Facebook, or for something like that?
That's a good question. I don't know, because producing, I think it's the producer's job to do that and not the broadcaster's job. I think, well, one example, my mother's, or my parents, they are in their 70s. And if I'm, well, every year I ask, what do you like to have for birthday or for Christmas? And I said, you want a Skybox, or I pay for you a Netflix abonnement for 1 year. I said, no, I don't need. So I bought a Dolby sound system for their TV, but she doesn't use it, it's too loud. And if I ask my nephew, he's 12 or 13 years, what you would like to have for the birthday, he says iPad and a Netflix. I think for my parents' generation, they always want to use public TV, TV serial procedurals, and they don't look TV in the internet, or they don't are interested in web series.
But I think that also there is something next coming, because Netflix is not dominating the market of platforms. Amazon is going to go back again, and Apple. But also the talk of the town in Cannes last week at MIPCOM was, how do we create an alternative to Netflix? And telcos are going to be involved. Public broadcasters are going to be involved. There is really a thinking about, do we want to let all this young audience to foreign platforms, or do you want to create something European? Do you want to tell your own shows throughout these means? And I think really Netflix has moved from a very liberal, open-minded platform, and now they're much more prescriptive, very interesting to work to, but very hard to work on rights. I mean, the contracts they pass with the producers are really not attractive. So it's nice to have a show on Netflix, but it doesn't. It's not the future for a producer. So there is really a lot of thinking now in the area. But how do we promote also alternatives? And I think it's very interesting.
I don't know if you have seen the Norwegian series called Scum, which was a big hit. It is a big hit. I heard that Facebook is going to remake it on Facebook Watch, or what is it?
They already did that with Skins, and it was a mistake.
Okay, maybe it's working this time. And I also asked that because we made a series called Karma in Instagram Stories. It was made for Instagram Stories only, and it was a small hit in a way. It was a very fascinating experiment also. I don't know if you know Facebook Stories, that you make clips for 15 seconds and they gonna stay there 24 hours only. So they're sort of vanishing after
but
that.
Don't use it.
You should.
It's like
It's
Snapchat. Snapchat does it for ages now.
So we made a drama to Instagram Stories. And it was, I think the public reacted to that like they were fascinated about the opportunity, and also that the public broadcaster is doing something like that. So we got quite a good publicity from that also.
Hype, in jumping off that, because I'm fascinated by the pacing and the dramaturgy for your series, how fast stories are being told. You have one episode that's 12 minutes in which one character breaks out of the mental rehab, finds his father. We realize the father is an alcoholic, the boy has a psychotic breakdown, all in 12 minutes, and he returns to the rehab. Are teen audiences more sophisticated? Can they absorb this kind of pacing, this kind of storytelling much faster? What's going on there?
Yeah, I think they do, because they are used to watch like YouTubers and videos from YouTube and other platforms that are much faster than the traditional TV shows. But also, I think there's another trend, like if you had seen Scum, you would have noticed that actually the scenes are very, very slow. They are sort of as in real life, that there might be a teenager with her phone thinking about should she send a message or not, and it lasts for minutes. So it's sort of slow TV, and there's so I think there are those two lines in a way, and also of course something in between. So it's not always as fast as we might think that having young audiences and
the
other
trend
platforms.
is not only going faster. I think it's trying to be authentic, because in this
Yes, indeed.
number of shows we see, now we kind of see the fabric. And if there is not a voice behind the show that is really the voice of the author that decides whether it's quick or not, because it's true to him or her, then you have to get that to reach the audience, because they see too many shows. They don't want to spend time into fabricated shows. And it can be on Facebook, it can be on a mainstream show. all the audience has become more sophisticated, even the older ones. They've changed from 10 years ago. The drama telling has changed completely. I mean, in France, and I'm sure also in Germany, it's improved a lot throughout the pressure of the American and the UK shows, and it's great.
And I think it's also, for the young audience, it's also because they use their mobiles so much. And I think the mobile phone is maybe the most incredible device at the moment. They have that phone all the time. It's sort of glued into their hands. They don't lose them at all because, you know, they always know where it is. So they are watching from their phones, and they are so fast of skipping to another if it's not interesting. So the storytelling must be quite fast in a way. It should be interesting all the time. They are not waiting for something to happen, that something might happen if they don't know what is coming. So they're, you know, skipping. It's like very, very small movement.
What I find fascinating from the presentation we just saw was that even though Europe has such a great production of TV shows, it is still the American shows that dominate on the SVOD. How strong do you see the creative influence on the work that you're doing from American shows? Is it still there, or are you finding that authors or writers are now finding their own specific way into storytelling here in Germany, in Scandinavia, and France?
I think it's been quite a long time that the UK shows have influenced us also. Now the Scandinois influenced a lot of new shows in France, and they were a bit copying, not really finding the right voice, the right authentic voice, because it was like taking it as a model. In today's world, I think we have, for me, I mean, the last show that I really was most influenced by was a UK show called Fleabag, because I think it's a new storytelling, it's a new way to film. So we always look at things, and the UK and the US are the most creative and powerful producers. Also, in terms of international shows, as you said before, I think there is a difference between the US and the rest of the world, because Mad Men was watched by 1.2 million people on HBO, and it's
AMC.
AMC, and it's known worldwide. So they have this power which we don't have. But there's been a change since 5 or 6 years. Is that we've all been watching The Killing in Danish, Borgen, George Scott, all these wonderful, even Israeli shows in their original language. So I think now local shows, when they're good, when they're really true to something, can travel a lot. And this is very good for us.
Speaking of traveling shows, Oliver, you're developing Das Boot, a huge pre-existing property, essentially. How did you decide to take that on as a series? Everybody knows the movie. Why Das Boot, the series?
Well, when we started thinking about our brand, so our CEO asked for which are the most worthful brands Bavaria has done in their last 100 years history. We founded a remake committee, and the biggest brand is, of course, Das Boot. And when I was 13 or 14, Das Boot was in as feature film was in theaters. I thought, wow, that's great. And then I wanted to become first a fireworker, then a pilot, then a marketing guy in the automobile industry. And much later, I became a producer in the media industry. So in that moment, when we figured out that Das Boot is a brand we should think about to make a remake, I said, please, let's do it. I want to do it. And in that moment, I was a little bit scared, because when our CEO said, okay, then go for it, I was a little bit scared because this feature film is one of the best ever done. And I have so many respect in what Wolfgang Petersen has done and the actors, and I said, oh shit. If you make a remake, you can fail. This can be your biggest mistake in the whole life, making a remake of this feature film. So I said, oh, let's do a series, because the stories are, you can, in that case of the feature film, they made as well a 6 episodes series for RD. And I thought that you can make the series better than 30 years ago, because the series was just because they had a huge material, and it was not not very, how to say, it was not made for series. It was
a very long movie.
A very long movie. And with our knowledge today, I said, well, series probably you can make it better, and that was the reason to make something or to create something completely new. And it's kind of 8 hours movie, and it's I think it will be great. But a 1-to-1 remake, I was afraid of.
Sure, is good.
Was there also strategic thinking that if you develop your own IP that you own as a production company, when you have syndication on Netflix, for instance, can you participate in that more fully down the line, or do you work with your network partners? Do you have to split the participation when you sell to outlets like Netflix down the line?
Sorry, once again.
Sorry, yeah. Is the idea for you also to develop own your own shows so that you can exploit them more fully down the line?
Keep the rights.
Keep the rights, yes.
So that depends on. We have at one side we have our TV shows we're doing for RD or ZDF, and they have the rights. But we participate when they, for example, they sell the rights, like we do it in the show Dr. Klein. They go to Netflix, and there's a second window on Netflix, and you can see the first 3 seasons now on Netflix. So we participate from that because, of course, it's a kind of how to say. For the broadcaster, it's good because they have a second way to finance it.
Right. Yeah. Second window. Yeah.
Second window. And, at the other side, we are creating, of course, or we are developing origin series as well for Netflix. We didn't right now, so you didn't read about, because we are still developing, and so we participate on both sides.
Smart.
For TV shows on second window or origin series.
Directly.
But there's a trend today in the broadcasters to get more and more rights and leave the less to the producers. And this is where international co-production can be interesting in some countries like Spain or even England. Because if you have various producers, the broadcasters in the country say, of course, let's have his hand on the rights.
Hype, with your experience in the youth market, is that experience filtering back to the main broadcaster? Is that your experience with reaching audiences? Is that changing the kind of programming that Yle does on a daily basis?
Do you mean what Yle does for TV?
Yeah, the regular programming. Is it changing the programming that Yle does?
Yeah, I think it is. It has to change, and also I think that why the audience is growing up all the time. So I don't think they are going back to the traditional way or finding the traditional way to use the content. So I think to my mind, I think the whole business has to change in a way that there's going to be more streaming and more other platforms.
What would your recommendation be for commissioning editors at traditional broadcasters? What should they do to not be left behind in the next 10 years?
At least I think they should use the social media to promote the shows more than they do at the moment. Because I think that's the only way to reach the younger audience. There's no way to get them by, showing trailers if they don't open up the TV at all. And also concentrating more to the mobile in general. I think the mobile is the most important thing.
Well, we have a culture of always having success, and I would wish that that we are allowed to fail. So, commissioner editors should be faster in a decision to agree a show and say, "Well, go for it." And if it's not a success, well, then it's not a success. But we should try it, and that's the chance for the future because we need a lot of content. I think last year there have been produced 1,000 series all over the world, 400 in the US. So being faster with the decisions to do something or not. Today, if you go to a broadcaster and you say, this is my show and this is a Bible and episodic overview, it takes up to 1 year till they decide to do it or not. And then probably the trend is over. And, faster decisions.
I would say just stop repeating yourself and about the success from the past and try to not be afraid of the future.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll see if this works. And thank you for the panel, and thank you for being such a great audience tonight. Have a great rest of your Medientage. Good night.